I don't know when was the last time that you tried something new, but take a moment now and imagine that you're trying out axe throwing as a sport for the first time. This is a sport that people all around the world have been trying out lately. India, Africa, Russia, Canada, the US, Australia. So wherever you are right now, imagine that you're with a few friends, and for the first time, you're all trying out this sport that involves hurling a small hand axe around 5 meters to hit a large target. Say on the first try, nobody hits, but then maybe after like 5 or 10 shots, one of your friends gets it. Everyone cheers. Perhaps 10 minutes later, most of your friends have hit the target a couple of times, but after 30 minutes, you still haven't hit the target once. How do you feel? How do you think the other people in your group are feeling? Chances are, the first person to hit the target is thinking they might be a natural at this, a real potential legend in this sport, right? They can't wait to tell everybody who wasn't there all about it. Your other friends could be discussing where they ranked against each other, who was strong and who was weak. Whereas you, on the other hand, well, you're probably feeling pretty ashamed. Clearly you're awful at this. If your group decides to go axe throwing again, probably you don't want to go. I mean, why would you embarrass yourself like that? These reactions probably sound familiar and realistic to you, but all of these reactions that I've just described are examples of a fixed mindset, and that is the mindset shown by science to hold back your success. So let's look at the science in further detail to understand. This episode is focused on incremental mindset theory and how it can help you achieve greater success. The original theory was developed by Dr. Carol Dweck, a social psychology professor at Stanford University, and you might have heard of it referred to as growth mindset theory. The problem with using the term growth mindset is that it can lead people to just take a shortcut through the theory and translate the concept as simply being open to growth or even just open-minded, and that doesn't capture the most important aspects of the science. Instead, I prefer to use an alternative term you will find in the scientific literature, and that is incremental mindset, because the term incremental more accurately reflects the phenomenon and how it works to help people improve their personal success. So what is an incremental mindset? Well, it's a mindset that essentially includes two fundamental beliefs. The belief that your ability in any skill is fluid and it can vary substantially over time from week to week and month to month. It's not fixed or necessarily stable. The second belief is that the factor that exerts the most influence over your current ability level is the hard work and effort that you put into being good at that skill. Now, the opposite mindset, called a fixed mindset, is when you treat today's performance as if it defines how well you could or should be expected to perform in the future, irrespective of hard work and effort. According to this perspective, your performance level is mostly fixed, defined, and stable. So it's more about the underlying talent that you have as a person than it is the effort and work you put into a skill. A fixed mindset happens when you find yourself believing that you have the right to perform better than someone else. Because you were better than them last time. It also happens when you find yourself failing at something and you start thinking, I'm never going to be good at this. In both cases, you are behaving as if you believe that your performance today defines what your performance could or should be in the future. So let's go back to the axe throwing example I gave you a few minutes ago. Everyone in your friend group had spent less than half an hour working at this new skill, and you'd already separated into groups. You had their heroes celebrating and you feeling ashamed. But all you had found out so far was how good you could be after one session. That doesn't tell you how you might perform in 2, 3, 4 months' time if you really want to be good at this and you work hard at improving during that period. Okay, so let me give you an example that's more relevant to your professional life than axe throwing. Imagine you and a colleague are both asked by your boss to give a presentation. Your colleague aces it, but your presentation is awful. Let's say that your colleague starts to think that this wonderful performance is proof of his or her natural talent. That person might start taking for granted that they're good and could expect to do well next time without even really having to prepare properly. If your colleague performs badly in the future, he or she will likely blame the situation. It wasn't fair. That wasn't a proper setup. The assumption here is, well, I proved that I'm talented at this in the past, and therefore if I'm not winning today, it can't be because of me. It must be because the whole situation is stupid. Okay, now in contrast, although you gave an awful presentation, let's imagine that you adopted an incremental mindset. Now that begins with saying, okay, gosh, I was a disaster today, so let me work at this. And you work hard to improve, getting incrementally a little better every week. Let's say that after 4 or 6 months, you've improved your ability to give presentations, say from like a dismal 2 out of 10 to a solid 6 out of 10. Now you and your colleague are both asked to present again. This time you perform at a 6 out of 10, and your colleague, who figured they didn't really need to do much, also performs at a 6 out of 10. But what is crucial here is that for you, it's no longer about how well your colleague performs. You've seen yourself get better. So now it's all about how well you can do. Maybe after another few months of effort, you have worked your way up to an 8 out of 10. But it's not just an 8, it's a more consistent 8, a more reliable 8. Because your performance has been built incrementally, brick by brick by brick, and that helps to make it more dependable. Many people watching this video know that Mahatma Gandhi, who led India's independence movement, was famous for his incredible speeches. Okay, so he gave a speech that inspired tens of thousands of people to walk 400 kilometers to the sea, where 50,000 of them were beaten and imprisoned. Imagine being that inspirational. And yet many people do not know that as a young man, he had difficulties being a lawyer because he couldn't bring himself to speak up in front of just a courtroom full of people. The difference between where he started and where he ended up was not because of natural talent or simply overcoming a fear. It was because of the hard work he put into being good at it. Incremental mindset theory is well established in the scientific literature. It's supported by decades of research, but it's not widely known or understood because globally as a species, we show a measurable tendency to prefer narratives about overnight success or natural genius instead of the often much more boring stories about massive hard work. So now on to the homework for this week. So the first step in developing an incremental mindset is to recognize how often we slip into the opposite, a fixed mindset. Developing and maintaining an incremental mindset is hard to do because it's really easy to feel discouraged when we don't do well at something. And it's also easy to be delighted when we beat our friends or colleagues without really trying. But both of these reactions drive us into a fixed mindset in which we put the emphasis on who we are and take the focus away from the effort that we need to get better. So for this week, your action step is to pay attention to how you think about your skills. If you find yourself thinking, wow, I'm great at this, change it to, I did well at this today. If you find yourself thinking, I'm awful at this, Change it to, that didn't go so well today. The best news about incremental mindset is that if your performance is low, it can get better. And if your performance is high, it can still get better. So I think that's enough for you to think about this week. We're going to take it forward from here in future episodes.